Hey, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ivy, and today I'm going to be talking about The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra, Clare, and Wesley Chu. This is the first book in the Eldest Curses trilogy, which is part of like the whole Shadowhunters Chronicles thing. This is the series that follows Magnus and Alec, and this book takes place between the two Mortal Instruments trilogies. So that's pretty early on in the Malik relationship. This book is about their trip to Paris. Overall, this book did exactly what I wanted it to, and that is, it just made me fall more in love with Malik. I didn't even think that was possible, but here we are. Their relationship is so well written and amazing and just I don't know, it's perfection, and I love reading about them, especially this early on in their relationship when things are still kind of awkward but like adorable. I also just fell more in love with Magnus and Alec as individuals. That being said, the plot itself of this book was not that great. I mean, it was fun, it was an adventure, you know, I was just enjoying my time traveling around the world with them, but it wasn't anything special, so that's the reason why I didn't love it as much as I love like the other Shadowhunters books, but I still had a great time. I love this world. I love these characters. I'm so glad that I read this book. So that's all that I'm really going to say, yeah, without spoiling anything. So if you haven't read Red Scrolls, you should leave because I don't want to spoil it for you. So adios if you have not read it. Okay, so the opening scene with the hot air balloon ride was the most adorable thing ever. I found it really hilarious that Tessa kind of interrupted a Malik makeout session because usually Magnus is the one walking in on people making out and, you know, doing other things, and I found it so funny that the situation was finally reversed in this book. Throughout this entire book, the whole thing that Magnus is worried about, well, there's a lot that he's worried about, but one of the things is he's worried that Alec is gonna find out that his dad is Asmodeus, a prince of hell, and then not love him anymore. Kind of cute how both Magnus and Alec are so in love with the other, but they don't think that the other person returns the feelings. There's this cult called the Crimson Hand, and basically there's rumors going around that Magnus is their leader. The only thing he can remember about it is that like years and years and years ago, he and his friend Ragnar were like drunk and they were joking about starting a cult, and that's all he can remember because Magnus thinks that someone messed with his memories. The scene where Alec called Jason Izzy and was asking for relationship advice was so funny, and I loved every second of it. I honestly didn't realize how much I missed these characters. Magnus and Alec go to the shadow market to, you know, get some information. Peng Fang is so funny. I love him so much, and like, I know he's obviously not the best person, but I don't really care because he has an awesome name. Also, Magnus talking to Johnny Rook about Kit made the entire book for me. Like, legit, that's all that Cassandra Clare needed to release because Kit is my everything. But that's not what this video is about. Johnny actually gives some helpful information and tells Magnus that the cult is, in fact, worshipping Asmodeus, who surprised no one. Magnus also gives Johnny this ointment that's supposed to help him avoid Shadowhunters. My theory is that that was actually for Kit, to hide him from the Shadowhunters. I don't know, but I'm really curious about that. One of my favorite parts of this book was at the shadow market when Alec gives like all of his money that he brought to Paris to this fairy girl, and he realizes that it could very likely be her scamming him, but he doesn't care because he doesn't want her to be hungry. And I just... Alec, man, I did not realize until I read this book just how awesome he is. Magnus and Alec have to go to Venice, so they get on the train, and in their room, as soon as the shower was mentioned, I got super excited. Unfortunately, nothing happened in the shower because demons attacked. Alec almost dies trying to save Magnus. Well, he does end up saving Magnus, but he almost dies, which is, again, adorable. I don't know, I love this so much. But then our girl Shinyun enters the picture, and I sincerely apologize if I am pronouncing that incorrectly. I cannot picture what her warlock mark looks like. Like, the fact that her face is always extremely expressionless. I just don't understand how that could possibly be a thing. I also was kind of suspicious of her at first, but I kind of disregarded it because I thought that would be way too obvious. The fact that Alec is so uncomfortable at the party because the Downworlders are all super suspicious of him was hard to read, but it also makes perfect sense. I love how Cassandra Clare always weaves these themes into it. The fact that the Downworlders are so suspicious of Alec is so sad because obviously Alec is amazing and he has no intentions of hurting anyone there. You can't really blame the Downworlders either because of everything that they've been through and what Shadowhunters have done to them in the past. I also love how much Magnus and Alec are willing to risk for each other. Like, they're both willing to give up their status and they're risking like everyone else that they care about not approving of them because they love each other so much. And I just relationship goals, okay? That pretty much just sums up my feelings on this book. All the subtle lines about Malcolm Fade, oh my gosh. I also did not realize that Ragnar, Magnus, and Katarina were such an iconic trio. Like, I knew that they all knew each other, I think, but I didn't know that they were such good friends, and that makes me happy. Also at this party, we run into Raphael, who I love. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this kid. There were some hints about Raphael that made it seem like he might be asexual, and I don't know if we're ever gonna get more of that. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting, some of the things he said, and I think if he is, that's really cool because that is representation that is definitely needed more. Did that make sense? The party gets completely broken up when Barnabas Hale shows up and starts just fighting Malcolm and they kind of like destroy the entire building. I do not like Barnabas Hale, but we don't need to get into that. This whole like chaos is an opportunity for Alec to show who he truly is because he goes in and he saves like 50,000 people and it's just awesome, and again it made me love him so much. They find Morishu's body, and looking back at it now, the fact that Shinyun was like the first one to be like, oh, it was vampires, is just so suspicious. When Magnus kind of checks on Raphael and like asks if he's okay because of what happened to Ragnar, that part destroyed me for so many reasons. I love how Alec is kind of observing all these things about Magnus throughout the book, one of which is how just kind he is, and unfailingly he will always do his best to help people, and just Alec kind of discovering all these awesome things about Magnus made me so happy. So Magnus, Alec, and Shinyun go into like the secret cult chamber. They find the Red Scrolls of Magic and realize that, yeah, Magnus definitely wrote this. Alec, even when they're finding all this evidence that points to Magnus founding this cult, like he obviously founded this cult, Alec is still like, no, you know what, I believe in you, you are a good person, you did nothing wrong, and that's just so cute, and he's so loyal. Oh my gosh. So my suspicions of Shinyun started to turn a little more serious when she started trying to divide Malik. Like, she kept saying to Magnus, oh, he's a shadow hunter, he's gonna turn you in. Like, who do you think Magnus is gonna trust? His boyfriend who has saved him and loved him through all of this, or you, this random warlock lady who shows up out of nowhere? The scene when they went camping, when Magnus is finally starting to open up to Alec, was whoa. Because I don't know if I knew this about Magnus, like the whole thing where his mom hanged herself and then his stepdad tried to kill him, but then Magnus killed his stepdad out of self-defense, but like he didn't try to because he lost control. I had no idea about any of that, and it's so sad because, like Alec says, Magnus is just always so happy and like seemingly perfectly fine, and just he's always burning so brightly, but that's to hide all like the pain and whatever that he's suffering, and oh my god, I wish nothing bad had ever happened to him. Alec goes to the Rome Institute to, I don't know, get some help or something, but all of a sudden we were seeing Helen and Aline meeting for the first time, and I was just so excited about this. Also, we get another interesting nugget. Apparently, Jace always knew that Alec was in love with him, and he was just kind of letting Alec have these feelings because he knew that Alec needed someone, like, safe to have a crush on. And my whole perspective on the Mortal Instruments has been flipped. Another one of my favorite parts was the scene where Magnus and Shinyun were, like, walking somewhere. I don't remember where, but this guy was like, go back where you came from, and then they, like, flung him into the river. So they go to the Roman baths, and this moment was when I finally knew for certain that Shinyun was bad news. Because she freaking touches Magnus's phone, and then 2 seconds later, it's not working. Are you kidding me? Magnus was so blinded by his guilt because he blames himself for all of Shinyun's pain, and he couldn't see that she was evil and trying to kill him. Alec figures it out. By that time, him, Helen, and Aline are, like, surrounded in the forest by, like, the fire demons. Helen has this super big emotional moment where she's like, I need to be perfect. I need to be the perfect shadow hunter to make my family proud because of my fairy blood. And then Aline is like, you don't have to put all this pressure on yourself. You're awesome. You're amazing. And then they, like, oh my gosh, it was just so good. I loved that scene. There's a major emphasis in this book, as with a lot of Cassandra Clare's books, at how poorly downworlders are treated and thought of in this world, and I always really like that because it feels really real and really important. Magnus has been captured and, like, poisoned so that his magic isn't really working, and he's finally realizing that Shinyun is evil. Even while he thinks he's about to die, Magnus is still so funny. That's one of the things I love about him, is in every single situation, no matter what is happening, he is always hilarious. Thankfully, the Shadowhunters kick some cultist butt and are able to fight their way through all of the peeps to, like, the stage thing where Magnus is. Magnus finally gets his memories back, so apparently the whole cult thing was a joke, and they were actually kind of doing some good because they were taking in warlock children, but then Asmodeus was, like, accidentally actually summoned, and he took the followers and wiped Magnus's memory. So Magnus never really did anything wrong, but it was obviously still not the best idea to start a cult. I loved how the cultists betrayed Shinyun because she deserves it. Like, she deserved to end up in that pentagram with Magnus, okay? It's also revealed that Asmodeus was the one who, like, made Magnus kill his stepdad. So again, another relieving thing. Like, Magnus had really, I mean, he had some control, but really, he was a terrified child, and you cannot blame him for what happened. Basically, so Asmodeus shows up, and he needs either Shinyun or Magnus to die so he can take their immortality as an anchor. Magnus, of course, is not willing to kill Shinyun, but she is willing to kill him, so she starts attacking him. Alec, however, is amazing, and he is able to realize which is the real Magnus because he sees him, like, reach for the dagger, but then put it down because he doesn't want to kill Shinyun. Alec shoots her, and Magnus is safe. He, like, uses Alec's strength to banish Asmodeus and, like, break open the pentagram, which is just so cool. I love when they use each other's strength. It's so freaking amazing. The clave comes, and the, like, 4 of them, like Helen, Aline, Alec, and Magnus, decide that they're just gonna, like, make a pact to never really tell anyone what actually happened with the Crimson Hand. And I love that this, like, random group now has, like, this shared secret. There's this awesome moment when Alec is talking to Helen and Aline, and he's like, you know, I finally have accepted that I'm different. I'm not like everyone else, but that's okay. And he knows that he doesn't have to change, but it's the world that has to change, and that they're gonna be the ones to do it. That was just such a powerful moment. Maybe one of the best, if not the best moment of this entire book. Alec, of course, frees Shinyun because he's just that awesome and he has mercy on her, so she like runs away. Helen and Aline ask each other out officially, which is awesome. Like, obviously I knew that's where this was headed, but it still made me ridiculously happy. We end with Magnus and Alec going home to New York. Magnus is saying how he finally feels like he has a home because of Alec and like all his friends, and then they finally have sex, and this was just such a perfect ending to this book because the entire time it was building up to that and they kept trying but then getting interrupted. The whole point of this book was that their love for each other is so strong and that they have such a great relationship, so the fact that they like ended on such a great note made me so happy. Of course, then we have the last part of the epilogue, which, knowing Cassandra Clare, I should have seen it coming a mile away. Shinyun apparently has frickin' Ragnar fell in her basement. I knew Ragnar wasn't dead, but I had no idea where he is, and Shinyun's basement was definitely not where I was expecting it to be. She has him like in chains and she's saying like, I want to bring all the eldest curses together, and what? I don't even know what the heck that means. I'm guessing we'll find out in the next book though. My final thoughts on this book. Like I said, I had a great time reading this and I love the characters. I'm very glad that I read it. I think it's definitely worth the read if you're into the Shadowhunters world and all that. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And it did not make me cry. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye.